Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Welcome everyone to this January balance mod update for the HiGPS balance mod. In January, it's the 31st of January, last of January, so I thought I forgot to do the updates. We will do this now. So there hasn't been that much changes. There also hasn't been a lot of development going on in this mod for the past month, as I've been working on the Overwatch mod and just taking a break from developing from time to time, because I do want to work on the stuff I want to work on and work on other stuff and do other things and then come back to it. So come back to it just a little bit today, just gone over a few things that needed a bit of a tweaking. So let's get into it right now and just look at the changes that is coming in this patch. I mean, some of these changes have already been live, but they have not been announced. So some of you, if you've been eager and playing on the server, you might have tried these already. So the first thing was a change from the for the eternal reward. So what I changed was that I removed the longer cloak time, which was 33%, which basically prevented Spy from doing Spy stuff. Like, Spy is already a very difficult class to balance because everybody have their own ideas of how this class should work and how it should play. Some think it should be a gun spy, some people think it should just be deception, pick class, whatever. However, with this weapon, the Eternal Reward, you were very much forced into a very specific playstyles, and also this shorter cloak time prevented you from moving around too far, being cloaked, and kind of forced you to use the Latronger, so I removed that. So basically what we did, we swapped that with longer cloak in time. So that means time to go into cloak is 20% slower. So if you use the Enforcer back in the day, that's how this was. So I think that's a better way to do it. That makes it like it's still as strong as it used to be. It's just that when you go into cloak, it takes a bit longer, so you can't escape as quickly after getting a stab. But then again, you are disguising instantly and switching targets when you're getting the stabs. So the need to instantly decloak after getting a stab isn't as high. And the penalty, of course, if you don't go for a stab and just cloak normally, you should probably use another knife. More spy stuff is the Enforcer that we have here. So the Enforcer is a weapon that I've tried this change in the past and it didn't really work. So now let's try it again and see that it doesn't really work. So what I've really added is just increase the damage by 20% in addition to this. So that means you'll have an effective 40% damage increase on the first shot while being disguised, giving you this really powerful, like more than a body shot damage, like so. It's pretty powerful. But then again, it's slower. So DPS wise and time to kill wise, it's pretty similar to the revolver. However, one of the biggest changes is the less accurate 300%. So that means the spray of the weapon is going to be really big and very unpredictable. So it's kind of like a shotgun close range for the spy, which is what I want this weapon to do, because it does still do the piercing of the armor and stuff. And I thought like it would be fitting for a weapon that does this kind of piercing and this kind of stuff to also be really powerful and sound powerful, and also be super inaccurate because the barrel is really short. So I think I haven't tested it yet. We will have to see how we can tweak it further. But so far, the idea is sound because I was the one that came up with it. So we'll see exactly how this plays. So next up is the Ambassador, which got a bit of a buff. We basically just decreased the damage penalty from 15 to 5%. Otherwise, it stays the same just because of the Enforcer and the revolvers that you can have as alternatives. And the reason it's not just flat out no damage reduction whatsoever is that potentially you could two-shot a Pyro very easily with this weapon. If you just shot him in the head and then shot him in the body, you would die. But now you need 3 shots to give it that edge. I'm still working on seeing if there's a way we can do to decrease the time it takes to get another headshot, because if we can do that and tie that to just a firing speed, we'll have a much more interesting weapon on our hands. So that is the one for Ambassador, just more damage overall. It now does 114 damage on a headshot close range, which also, you know, you will do more damage further away as well. So all is well that it increases the damage. Then we have a bit of a nerf for a soldier weapon that was much discussed, and that was the disciplinary action. As you can see here, we've added longer melee range to add up for some of the miss hits you have, because it already had a hidden stat of longer melee range than normal. However, because hitting teammates isn't lag compensating or something like that, the hit registration doesn't always work, so we just increased the range by from 70 to 80% because it already had a 70% longer melee range hidden that you didn't know about unless you digged in the file like I did. And then we increased the damage penalty from 25 to 60% less damage, similar to what we did with the escape plan. So mobility tools shouldn't be kill tools to keep it balanced. Furthermore, we have something for the Demoman here. We actually had a community suggestion that I implemented and we can try. Of course, this is a new weapon for the Demoman, and it's a market gardener pretty much for the demos. It's a Scottish Handshake, the reskin of the bottle. Basically now it deals crit damage when you're explosive jumping, and it has 30% less damage and no random crits. So the reason I made it so that it doesn't do 195 and it only does like 130 something instead, yeah, 137, is because it's a lot easier to pull this off, and you can also do this tech where you're right in front of somebody as a demo and you can just put a sticky down and you can sticky jump and switch to a weapon and just hold down, like you can just press your melee key and then hold down the button and you will slap them. And it's a lot easier to do this than using the Market Gardener, which is probably why the Demoman doesn't have this kind of weapon. So this is a very experimental one, and it completely changes how Demoman is played and kind of makes him a bit similar to the Soldier. However, they're both explosive based, and this one does less damage, and we'll tweak it and we'll see if it works, and if it doesn't, we'll remove it. So that is experimental because it's community suggested, and things that have been community suggested in the past for new weapons have been absolutely dogshit terrible. So furthermore, we have the Ullapool Caber. We've added longer melee range and added that you do more damage because of the increased range and 50% more self-damage taken. So the Ullapool Caber is a bit in a different weapon state. It's in the past, it used to be exceptionally strong, where you could basically just trade yourself for whatever other class that had less HP than you. So pretty much commonly, like good Demoman would just go in, do their job, save a sticky, jump on the medic, kill himself, kill the medic, and trading a Demoman, which essentially isn't a pick class, he's a power class, and being able to just swap himself for whatever other class he wants is a bit too strong. I mean, it's still a one-time use, but still, they nerfed it so much that it's not in a good state because I hardly see anyone use it, and I wouldn't use it myself. So because that the Ullapool Caber is a bit longer than the regular melee, I've increased the melee range. Of course, the explosion works in the way that if you're further away, then you do less damage, right? So if you hit people with the melee weapon, the explosion with the longer range, you're actually further away and you will do less damage. So that's why we have the increase, so that on the furthest apart that you are, you will do 126 damage. And when you're the closest, you will do 134 damage, which is sort of the same which we did with the Scottish Handshake. And it still has the other stats like slower deploy time and stuff like that. So this one is a bit more viable than before, so we'll see exactly how that works. Now on to Pyro. There was a change to the Manmelter. I haven't actually added this in yet, but basically what I did is that we increased the afterburn damage, or the fire damage, from 4 to 5 to just try to give it an edge, because we've given it faster firing speed. Doesn't help. No, like, it's not flare gun, it's not score shot, it's not detonator, therefore we never use it. And so hopefully increased fire damage will give it some viability for people that want to use it, but I'm still not sure if that is good or not. And lastly, we had a bit of a nerf to the Scorch shot, which came through on a discussion on Twitter, which was also submitted by primarily competitive players, I think, like they had the issue. And there's the thing about competitive players, like when you talk to them online, they're like, this weapon's OP and this weapon's bad and shit. And then you're like, yeah, well, how would you fix it? And you just get crickets. They have no idea. And the ideas that I did get, I couldn't pull off in the game because it's hard-coded to the actual item and there's no attribute. I have to use like a plugin and code and stuff and still have no dedicated coders to do that. So we'll just have to settle for something else. And what I did was slower projectile speed, slowing it by 40%. And it kind of makes sense because the projectile is a lot bigger. It still does the same amount of damage. You still fire at the same speed. So at closer range, you won't really feel the difference. However, the bounce speed, like the projectile, it will hit and then it will bounce off and then hit the ground and hit again. And it's that second thing because it resets your afterburn. So you could basically kill 125 HP classes with a single weapon if you hit them twice with the thing and just let them burn. If they had no health or health kits nearby or no extinguishing. So that was pretty strong, pretty obnoxious, because the main problem was this was long-range, effortless spam and denial from the Pyro used in the right hands. So we think I think that slower the firing speed will allow people to dodge the projectile a bit more, because it is a bigger projectile. It's much larger than the others because it has like this circle around it when you fire. And then the slower bounce speed will kind of allow people to escape unless they decide to stay in the same spot and stuff like that. Still also not tested, and we will see how that goes. So that is all the balance mod changes for January. Going into February, not sure how many more changes we will do. We're going to be fidgeting a bit more, do some more tests. Also, I've stopped development of the Overwatch balance mod as well, but might resume that later when I feel like it. And thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more content.